I urge you then to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. But in the first 3 chapters, what Paul is doing is he is telling us all the things that God did for us, all the amazing things he did, all the wonderful things that he did. You know, how we were chosen in Christ before the world's foundation, how we're adopted into the family, how through Christ's blood we have redemption and forgiveness, how God's will is being revealed, which is a unification of all things under Christ, how as believers we're sealed with the Holy Spirit as a guarantee of our inheritance, how we were once dead in sin, but now we are made alive through God's grace. And even goes through and talks about, those of you here a couple weeks ago, I was preaching from 2nd Ephesians, talking about how he's even taking, Jew and Gentile, which was a big deal. It's like Bears and Packer fans, right? And how, there's no longer a Bears fan and a Packers fan. There's just a fan of God kind of thing. And we have this new identity. And it's like, what? And it was way more intense than Bears and Packers fans. But how he's sort of making this whole new thing and kind of setting all this stuff. And it's all this stuff that he's already done. This is what he has done. This is what he has done. And it's a good reminder because sometimes, we kind of forget that it's about what he did. And we get caught up in the righteous part of the living, which he says, live a life worthy of the calling you have received. We start thinking, well, then that's how we earn all that stuff. And we've all dealt with this. If you've been a Christian long enough, for sure you've dealt with this. I mean, there have been times I haven't prayed a prayer because I thought, he don't want to hear it. I haven't said the prayer because I think, well, let me get right first. I know what I need. I got to fix this. I got to fix that. And that's not from God, because it says he did all this stuff. And that's good news in that, all right? That our salvation and the redemption, the forgiveness of sins, not based off of what we've done to earn it, but it's just already there. And yet, then in chapter 4, right here, Paul switches, and he has this little phrase, and it's the connector here of, as a prisoner for the Lord, then he's talking about of himself. He's actually in prison when he's writing this. He says, I urge you then to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. It's in view of those things that we live differently. To become something, sometimes you look up, I could never be like this person. I wish that I had, a marriage like those people, and I wish that I had success in this area like those people. I wish I'm just not like that. You think it's you. You think it's the makeup of you. I just don't have those skills. I just can't do that. No, the thing is, it's just how you choose to live your day. And so what I love about this is Paul first sets up this thing of listen, you guys, none of you can't earn this. None of you done anything for this. He's basically saying, and as he's setting this up, if you were lost, and especially he's writing to Ephesians who are Gentiles, they didn't have any connection to this God of the Jews. And he's saying, listen, you guys are forgiven. You were hopeless before, and now you have hope. This is given. He's already done this for you. So you hear that, wow, okay, so then what does that mean for us? He says, then I urge you then to live a life worthy of that calling you have received. And I've said this before, but if I went and picked out one of you and said, hey, Jason, do you think you could preach for me this Sunday? Okay, man. If he had to, I bet you your week's gonna look a little different this week than it did last week, right? Because he's reading the Bible with some purpose now. I don't know oh my goodness, he's praying, dear Lord, what am I gonna say? And I don't, it would affect you because you know what's required of that. And this is what Paul's saying is this is who you are. You are this righteous, redeemed, holy because of what Jesus did. So then act like it. Live like that. Now, the fear in that is that you start going and thinking, well, then if I do good stuff, then I'll feel kind of good because I did something. But here's the one thing we know about living a righteous life is, as Paul writes in Romans 3:10, he says, there is no one righteous, not even one. So even you doing the best that you can and doing amazing, you can't make yourself righteous. You are righteous because of what he did. Well, so then I shouldn't do anything? No, Paul goes on a whole thing like this, like, what do I do in favor of this grace? Live the way you're supposed to live. This is why he's urging it. So then what does righteous living look like? 1 John 3:7 says, little children, let no one deceive you. Whoever practices righteousness is righteous, as he is righteous. In other words, it's this idea of you choosing to engage. I want to choose. I want to do the right thing. And so I'm heading that direction, and I want to do the right thing. But what happens even though we have the best of intentions and we want to do the right thing? We fail. And we mess up. And then so many times we think, just awful. Like I said, I know I'm not alone, that you guys have had that time and you feel like a fraud praying. Just like, he's got to be sick of me, because I'd be sick of me, right? That's what you're thinking. You're thinking, like, I feel like I've had enough of me, hitting my head in the same way over and over again. And you want to think, so pick yourself up in a bootstrap. Prove that you're worthy of that, because that's how other areas of our lives are, right? I'm sure most of you aren't just given, raises and job promotions and then say, you've been awful, but we think this is going to motivate you to do better. Right? We wish that, well, yes, and I would. I would do so much better if you just paid me more money and you gave me more responsibility. Well, sure, then I would. It's like, no. Who are the people who get the raises? Who are the people who get the promotions? The people who are doing that before they've earned it, right? They're showing I'm worthy. They're showing of it. So we think in our heads, and we put that to our faith, and should we be living righteous? Yes, he's saying, please, live a life worthy of that calling received. Just don't get in your head thinking that you are somehow earning the righteousness. It's already there. You can't earn it. So what do I do? Have the desire to start doing it. Start moving in the right direction. What happens when I fail? Well, welcome to the journey. Well, you're a part of the team now. Welcome to the family. This is what we do. Proverbs 24:16. For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. So that I can only fall 7 times? No. Proverbs has kind of got a little bit of poetry trying to get you to understand something. It says, so they fall. Every time the righteous fall, they stand back up. They don't have quit in them. The second you get out of righteousness into unrighteousness is when you stop trying, when you stop moving that direction, when you give up, or when you straight up say, I'm not going to do that. You lose that desire to be righteousness, or to be righteous. You just keep getting back up. Because as Paul writes in Romans, he says, for in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed, a righteousness that is by faith from first to last. Just as it is written, the righteousness will live by faith. From first to last. In other words, from start to finish, you're viewed as righteous by God because he's choosing to view you as righteous. Because of what he's doing, not because of what you're doing. All he has, what does he ask? Live a life worthy of the calling you've received. Why? Is it just for me and so I can do better? No, because we know that you can't earn the righteous. It's because he wants us to join in mission with him. The mission that Jesus started when he came. To love other people. To share the good news. To get other people a part of this. And if you're a complete mess, that's a little harder to do. Right? You can still do it. You do know, in fact, that the people who know most of the sinners in church are the people who are around lots of sinners. It's like the holier we get, the more righteous are, more people we get around us. It's like the less people we have in our life we can share the gospel with. So if you're in a position where you're thinking, oh man, that's me. You might be around a bunch of sinners. So you can share the gospel with them. But I don't know, I'm not you don't have to be anything. We just have to jump in and act, right? And get in and do it and start the practice. So it's just the practice. You're righteous when you start. I want to start doing the right thing. And how do we get to know that? How do we know what we're supposed to do? Well, that's why I say Celebration Church, we're here to help you know God first and foremost. To know who he is. This is what we come in together on Sundays and we start to learn about who he is. And maybe you're new to faith, or, faith's always kind of been over here. You kind of have a faith you don't know. I don't know where I stand with that. You come in on a Sunday, you start hearing about God. You start hearing the promises he has. Start hearing about the way he wants you to live. And it just sort of starts getting in there. It starts sort of messing with you. At some point we say, encourage you now to deepen that faith. You found that faith, now deepen it. Work on that. Grow in that. Discipleship, as it's called. Well, how do I do that? Well, start reading the Bible a little bit on your own. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Well, we can help you with that. Man, one of the easiest, feel like I've said this before, Proverbs has been one of the books I jumped into. I thought it was so easy, and especially if you're a practical person. It's just got these little snippets of wisdom. And there's 31 Proverbs, so you can read one a day. Now, the Proverbs 31 is about women, so ladies get missed their proverb, I guess, every other month. But it was a bad joke. Sorry. My wife's already staring at me like, why did you say that? I don't know. I just thought that in my head, 31, and then there's only 30, and the 31 is about women. Anyway, I could workshop that a little bit more, which means you get to read 2 on that day. And I remember going through that and reading those little things, and it was amazing how those little Proverbs, those little things of scriptures, just like the one I read, how the righteous may fall 7 times, but he gets back up. And it would just kind of stick in with me. And so when I'm going through those times and I'm thinking, I don't even think God wants it. He's not taking my call right now, right? I think he's leaving me on red, right? Okay, if you're young enough to understand that. But he's not taking my calls. He's not responding to me because I'm kind of because that's what we do. When somebody gets mad at us, what do? Give them the silent treatment. And sometimes that's for the best because you're like, I'm going to say something that I shouldn't say, so I'm going to refrain from speaking right now. I'm taking a vow of silence for the next 24 hours. So we think that's how the relationship, but no, he's always there. And so you get a Proverbs like that. No, wait. It's getting back up again. I am still righteous as long as I'm not quitting. As long as I still have the desire to do right. Do you still have the desire to do right? I do, but I just struggle with it. Welcome to walking by faith. To living this thing throughout, the daily Christian living. But what's you'll find is the more you get that in you and the more you start to learn the scriptures and you get around other people, you find that your faith can deepen. Some people find it very valuable to get into a small group and sit down and you'll go study something specific, go a little bit deeper. We're going to be putting together a list of some groups come in this fall and do like a full kickoff. There might be something there you want to jump in. Maybe you just have no Christian friends. You just need to get around other Christians to find out how y'all do this. Right? Can Christians do you guys have any fun? Do you do anything? What do you do? Do you sit around? Does this mean, live a life worthy of the calling received, that we just wear robes and move out into the woods somewhere or something, No, we're normal people mostly, it's just, it redirects our life a little bit. We look at situations a little bit differently, right? When someone ticks us off and drives us crazy, and you got some issue at work where it's like, well, you need to tell them what you need to stand up, rah, 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 right? We think, well, as Christians, actually, first off, I need to forgive that person. Why? Because God won't forgive me if I don't forgive him. I don't know. He came up with the rule. All I know is I need his forgiveness, so I have to forgive that jerk. Help me, Lord, do that. And it's tough, and it's hard. We start moving forward, and then you start noticing, you get other people around, you start helping you. Start seeing how to do relationships differently, how you're living life a little bit differently, and all of a sudden your faith is getting a little bit deeper, and you get to understand who God is a little bit more and how he wants us to live, and all of that so that we can love other people as Paul moves on. That was just verse 1. See, I told you I wasn't going to know where I would get through all this. Verse 2, he says, be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. You live in a righteous way is not just so you can kind of be like, I'm the cool guy, and I feel good about myself. It's because he wants you in unity with others, getting along with people.